I'm addicted to gambling, and I should have known that I needed to give it up way before I actually did. It's estimated that around 5% of the population on Earth has a gambling addiction. Could you be a part of that 5%? Today, I want to help you figure out if you have a gambling problem, and if you do, I want to help you figure out if it's time to give it up for good. Because if I had seen this video 5 years back, it could have saved me years of extra suffering, misery, and frustration. Let's get into it. Are you addicted to gambling? I want to breeze through this section, believe it or not, because in previous videos, I've done a lot of deep dives into exactly how to determine if you have a gambling addiction. But here's a few examples of things that I was doing and that many other gambling addicts are doing that show that you likely have a gambling problem of some kind. If you're losing sleep because of your gambling, using your gambling to escape boredom, using your gambling to escape frustration, using it to escape stress, borrowing money to gamble, selling things that you own to gamble, missing work or school to go and place bets, and feeling bad after you've gone and gambled. I used to spend 6 to 8 hours every single day chasing a big win that I didn't even need. Because my name's Rob, and I'm in recovery for a gambling addiction myself. I made my last bet November the 12th of 2022, and now I create content like this because I don't want to see you go down that same path. It is not pretty. And those symptoms that I just listed are just the tip of the iceberg. Things get absolutely chaotic and miserable when the only thing that you care about in your life is that next bet. Don't let that be you, because it was me for a very long time. And if you don't want it to be you, then smash that subscribe button to learn from my mistakes. Now, let's say that you answered yes to a few of those symptoms that I was just talking about. Does that mean that you're addicted to gambling? Not necessarily, but there's a good chance at this point. Now, how do you really know if maybe you're just on a bad streak, or you're having a bad week, or if you're actually addicted to gambling? Well, here's how I knew. During the time that I was gambling every day, it was pretty rare that I would actually stop and think to myself, why are you doing this, man? Because in my head, by the time that I was, 2-3 years into my gambling, it had gone from a hobby that I was doing with my friends to something that I viewed as what would inevitably become the success in my life. I viewed gambling as a possible career path. I wanted to be a professional gambler. And so this idea that I was losing, it couldn't mean that I had a gambling problem. It could only mean that I didn't know enough yet to be a successful gambler. And of course, that in itself was part of the problem. Anyways, I kept going every day for those long years. And by the time that I reached the end point, that's when I actually started to question, why am I even doing this anymore? Because after having some wins along the way, but inevitably losing that money, I realized that there was not a win that was big enough to make me actually say, wow, that's enough. I can now stop. I mean, I would tell myself that all the time. I'd say, oh, I'll stop after I get even, or I'll stop after I win this amount. But I was never actually planning on stopping. I was just going to continue to gamble over and over and over again. But when I really started to think about what I was doing, that's when I realized just how bad things had actually gotten, or how bad I had made things for myself. Because I told myself that the reason I wanted to be a professional gambler was so that I could travel the world. I could do whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and I didn't have to ask anyone else for permission, because I'd have all this money and I'd be important and respected. These were the kinds of thoughts that I was really, really having. But when I took a trip in February of 2022 to France, a great vacation that I had saved up enough to be able to go, saved up from what I wasn't spending on gambling at the time, I was thinking to myself, okay, now you've flown halfway around the world, you've gotten what you wanted, you're in Paris on a Tuesday or a Wednesday afternoon, and you don't have to worry about anyone's schedule, you don't have to worry about your schedule. Why don't you feel satisfied? And within just a couple of hours of landing, when I should have been, sipping on rosé and looking at the Eiffel Tower, I was in the bathroom of the hotel playing hands of blackjack. And I thought, for the very first time, why are you actually doing this? I had never actually sat down and thought through it, but it had reached a point where It was such a compulsion to me. It was all that I thought about. It was just what I did, that I didn't question it until that day. Now, if you heard that story and you can relate to anything that I just said, then there's a decent chance that it's time for you to leave gambling behind as well. But I can take it a step further and give some other symptoms that I was experiencing at the time. And if you're going through any of these, it's a clear wake-up sign that something is wrong with your gambling. 1, your family and friends are concerned about you repeatedly. People were asking me all the time, dude, why are you so quiet? Why do you keep sneaking off to the bathroom? Is your stomach okay? And in reality, I was quiet because I was losing money. I was sneaking off to the bathroom to chase my losses, and I was not doing okay at all. But people noticed, and that's when I realized that I wasn't so good at hiding it anymore, that it had become a real problem, and others were catching on. 2, thinking of harming yourself from gambling losses. Guys, this is a very, very serious addiction. A gambling disorder, 1 in 5 people that experience it will consider or actively try to take their own life. If you're struggling in any way, then call the National Suicide Hotline of your nation that you're watching this video. If you're in the United States, it's 988. Because life is worth living, and you can't solve a problem if you don't keep living it. 3, you're not having fun anymore when you gamble. I heard a great quote one time, and it was that if it's not fun, it should be done. And that's exactly how I feel about gambling. When I first started, it was really fun. When I was in the middle, it was really fun. But by the end, I was stressed out, anxious, tired, and I was really just a shell of the person that I used to be. So if you're experiencing that, it's a very obvious sign that gambling is no longer for you. 4, late night ATM runs at the casino to get even. If you can't stop gambling until you get even, it's a clear sign that you're struggling with a gambling problem. Someone without a gambling problem would take a certain amount of money, win or lose, whatever, they'd leave. But us, we can't leave because we can't accept that we've lost until we try to get it back. And lastly, calling friends and family to ask for gambling money. Even if you tell them that it's not for gambling, if you're borrowing money and putting it right back into gambling, thinking something like, yeah, I'll pay them back after I win, it's an obvious sign that it's gone too far. If gambling's entertainment, there's no reason to ever be gambling on credit. I want to give you a really strong warning here. Don't keep gambling because of an internet meme, a streamer, or a commercial. You're going to be completely immersed in gambling media until someone steps up and says that this is wrong. So you're going to be seeing all these wins and all of these great things that you're going to get if you go and gamble, but the reality is much, much different. Please don't put yourself in a situation that you are actively struggling in. The casinos and this entire industry only make money when you lose it. If you aren't convinced at this point in the video whether or not you have a gambling addiction, then I want you to watch this video that I made where I answer the 20 questions that Gamblers Anonymous uses to determine if someone is addicted to gambling. Go and give it a watch and answer the questions for yourself. And until we figure everything out, let's just keep getting better together, one day at a time.